Hey everybody, welcome to Unbreakable Radio. I've got a brief intro before our intro just to say thank you for tuning in. Again, thank you for hanging with us now. We're quite a few episodes in, and we're up on Spotify. We're beyond YouTube at this point, and I'm just super excited to continue to have the opportunity to produce these episodes, to continue to put out content, and to have more and more really unbreakable, fascinating, wise people that we can have discussions with and learn from on the show. So if you have something that you would like to share, you would like to be a guest, or you have someone that you would like to hear on the show, please send us an email or a message, Annie@unbreakablestrengthco.com, or visit our website, unbreakablestrengthco.com, and fill out the contact page. Please share this podcast with your friends, put it in your Instagram stories, like and subscribe, get the word out so that we can continue to produce better content. Maybe we can get some fancy intro music or some sponsors so that we can keep serving you and keep reaching a broader and broader audience of unbreakable people just like you. So again, thank you from the bottom of my heart for tuning in. I really appreciate the support. And without further ado, here is Sven Erlandson from Badass Counseling on the show for Unbreakable Radio. Hey everybody, welcome to Unbreakable Strength Co Radio. Today I've got Sven Erlandson from Badass Counseling on the show today. And so I heard Sven's work at first from the Trigger Warning Conjugate podcast and just really appreciated his honesty and his sincerity and some irreverent, not giving a fuck kind of personality combined with this really empathetic, really caring kind of Brene Brown style thoughtfulness. And so I really was excited to have him on the podcast today and just to hear more about your thoughts about, approaching mentorship and leadership, approaching, how do we live our lives in a really honest and sincere way. And I think you've, in looking through your content and your literature and just what you post on social media, it seems like you've really got a lot of really valuable things to say on that. So Sven, I'll let you introduce yourself, clear up anything that I maybe got wrong or didn't cover, and then we can kind of get into it.
No, Annie, that sounds great. Thank you so much for having me on your show. It's fantastic. I really appreciate it. Honored to be here. You sort of hit all the main talking points. I do have some whole bunch of posts over on TikTok and trying to attack, basically precisely what you're talking about, that sort of intersection of the hard questions of life, sort of that Brene Brown stuff, or whatever strain a person comes out of, and helping them attach to their lives. But I'm also sort of a physical guy, and so it comes off as very, aggressive, and just sort of try to fuse it all together. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But anyway, great to be on your show.
Sven, you kind of on your website, you've got yourself described as, I know that you've been an NCAA strength coach in the past, and then you had that for your career for a period of time. You had a military career, is that correct? And then you kind of got into counseling and then spiritual counseling and pastoral work. Something that I found really interesting in listening to your interviews was kind of listening to you talk about those transitions. Could you maybe give us a bit of a snapshot or an overview of that career path and how that's been?
Yeah, the brief snapshot is that I came out of high school and went to the Air Force Academy. I was going to be a fighter pilot, and I was also playing Division I football at the Academy. And I put in 2 years and just didn't feel the same itch that I had about becoming a pilot, and I got out. And within about a year or two was sort of working on my degree and decided I wanted to become a Lutheran pastor. I was in Minnesota. I'd gone back to Minnesota from Colorado. And so I finished my degree in mathematics and religious studies, world religions. And then I went out to Berkeley, California to get my Master of Divinity. Had to leave for a couple of years, go back to Minnesota, did a couple of years studying at a Catholic seminary and Baptist seminary, and then moved back to Berkeley towards the end of that decade. But prior to that time, I'd begun writing my first book, which was called Spiritual But Not Religious. I was the first author in America to describe the then fledgling field or area of life, basically this giant movement of America out of religion and into more spirituality without the religion. And then while I was writing my books, I was living in LA, I was living in the San Francisco area, I was living in Minnesota, moved around a bit. And I was asked to be the strength coach, NCAA strength coach for a couple of years. And in the middle of it, while I also had a counseling practice that had been growing, I'd gotten kicked out of ministry a few times, in part because of my sort of radical books, in part because of my generally fucking annoying personality, And then also this was the late 1990s, early 2000s. And I took a pretty strong stand for gay rights. And the Lutheran Church hadn't quite made the evolution yet. They would make it about a decade later or 8-9 years later of allowing gays to be ordained clergy. And so I was sort of taking a stand on the straight side of things on behalf of my gay brothers and sisters. And my daughter is gay, so she was still a child, very young, and so that had it would end up having much more meaning for me later in life. Forgive me, I get choked up with my daughter.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, so yeah, I was a strength coach and did that for a couple of years. It was very exciting, and I enjoyed it very much and had some great success. And then my whole counseling career just went further and further, and I ended up now, I was in the Bay Area again, and then I ended up now in Manhattan, New York City. And most of my clients are, CEOs, presidents of companies and so forth. And they come to me not because I know shit from Shinola about business. I don't. Or because I know anything about finance, even though they run hedge funds where they maybe have $100 billion AUM, assets under management or whatever. I don't know anything about any of that, but I know how to fix lives. And because of my physical nature and my aggressive nature and so on and so forth, we bond. They connect. They understand. They need somebody who's intense. It's not always just soft that wins the day. It's got to be both. It's got to be love of the people, but it's also they got to have someone who will kick their ass and push them in a loving way, but who won't just let them take the easy way out or run from their problems and so forth. So that's sort of the synopsis of it. So now I'm in the New York City area and I travel around the world at this point. I have clients around the world. Yeah, that's sort of what I do.
That's a really, and I think I'd like to hear more about some of, really in particular, some of the transition points there for you. But it sounds like you've had a really marvelous career and in a lot of ways been really successful at each interval of things that you've done. Is there a common thread in your approach to pursuing a type of work or in your approach to being with, I think like strength coaching, right, is where we're in a leadership position, we're caring for other people, but like you said, you're also, physical and you're kind of kicking people's ass, right, with weightlifting and then growing them as well. And I think that being a spiritual leader can have kind of that same component as well, which is that like, hey man, I love you, but also I'm going to like call you on your bullshit. And that seems to be a common thread. Like how did, do you feel like this is something that came very naturally to you? Is this a personality style or an approach to folks that has developed for you? What's that been like?
Well, that's a great question in two separate ways. One, our career, if we allow it, our personality becomes our career, that we begin to create on the outside. If we have the courage to express our real self on the outside, then our external life becomes integrated with our internal life. So my career becomes an extension of who I am as a person. The other side of it is so what do you become? What do you create a career? And so the question really becomes about those inflection points in those changes that you brought up in the beginning of your question. What determines what path to take, or how do you create a career? I didn't create this career. I never had the vision of I want to be basically, it was very organic. I want to be this fucking people who counsels people in New York City. And that was never a blip on my radar. My becoming a writer was never a blip on my radar. My mother taught me to start journaling when I was 13 to get my feelings out and so on and so forth. She valued that, but I had never thought of being a writer. And then I'm 28 and I'm writing my first article and then working on my first book. And so it just happened. The way to know your career, the way to know your life's calling, the way to know the path that is going to breathe life in your motherfucking soul is ultimately about reading your energy. Okay, so tomorrow morning, I have my workout morning. I work out basically once a week for about 4.5 hours. I get lit on caffeine, and I'll either start my workout with bench or I'll start my workout the following week with close grips. And so tomorrow's close grip day. And there'll be times when I'm close gripping and I'm getting up to 325, 345 for reps on close grips. And I'll go into a set knowing, just feeling, I'm not going to hit this fucking number. And there are times when it's just like, yeah, I can grind and I can push. It's just like, I know going into the set, you just fucking know I'm fucked. I'm just fucked. Okay. But it's about, so it's similar to that. It's about reading your energy. In other words, does this path or does this relationship with this friend or with this lover or with a parent or with a child or with a coworker, does this path or relationship or purpose that I'm on in life, does it breathe life into me? Does it literally give me energy, physical energy, excitement, mental energy, or does it suck the fucking life out of me? Does it bleed me, bore me, numb me? Do I have to conjure up energy just to go do it or just to engage with this person? Once you start reading your own energy, your path unfolds before you. Now, you may be saying, wow, a person may be saying on their path, well, I want to have X amount of dollars and I want to live here and I want to do that. But your energy in a given situation seems to be calling you in a completely different direction. So for instance, I spent 2.5 years in the 2000s. I spent 2.5 years working among the homeless in Oakland and Berkeley, California. 2.5 years sleeping on concrete every night. I literally lived with the homeless. I gave up all my life possessions, drained my bank account. Now that would seem to go contrary or counter to the notion of building anything, successful or whatever. And I had never really aspired to money, fame, sure, but never money. But the notion of going and working with the homeless would seem to go counterintuitive to any notion of progress. But it's precisely because I did that I'm now in my counseling able to speak to so many different types of people, able to speak to fears of destitution, able to speak to extreme alcoholism, not to mention the fact that just having that on your fucking resume, counterintuitive as it sounds, people see you spent fucking 2.5 years working among the motherfucking homeless and the drug addled and sleeping on concrete every night, and people are like, oh shit. Okay, why? Because it's just like, oh, he's serious about what he does. He's not just in it for the motherfucking money. So what I'm getting at is reading your energy, not what's being forced on you, not what's being expected of you by an external power source, a parent, a friend, a lover. But do you have the courage to read your own energy? And it's an inflection point when it's sucking the fucking life out of you. It's an inflection point. It's time to change course when it's just like, it doesn't feel right anymore. And sometimes we'll wait a year or 2 years or 5 years or longer before we finally listen to that voice. And I'll ask that person, well, when did you know? And they'll say, when did I know what? I'll say, when did you know it was bad? When did you know it was time to go? And they'll be like, fuck, I knew in the first month. And it only took me 5 years to get out or what have you. So it's reading your own energy. And if you can do that one thing, read your energy and have the courage to follow it, you will be happy. Guaranteed, absolutely. But it requires the courage to say no to that which is not you. And implied in the word no is the word I. No is, no, this isn't fair. No, I won't be treated this way. No, I don't want that. Well, implied in that is the word I, me.
Right.
I don't want this. This isn't fair to me. And so many of us have been culturally conditioned by parenting, or maybe even well-meaning people, to remove me from the equation, and it's all about you. Well, then how the fuck are you ever going to read your energy? How are you ever going to know what feels good to you unless you're allowed by yourself to say this matters to me, which implies also saying, no, this doesn't feel good. And that's an act of courage.
Well, I think you touched on a lot of things that I want to ask about. The first one being, I remember you telling a story in the last podcast I listened to you in, and you talked about a client of yours that had been maybe in law his entire life in law for a major company. And his father had pushed him to go to law school. He'd kind of talked like, man, I never really wanted to do this. And I think you said he became, is it like a 3rd grade teacher? And that he just like completely changed careers. And I thought that that to me is like a really evident manifestation of what you're talking about, which is that like you're saying no to these things that are put upon you in order to say yes to something greater. And I think part of our interwoven into our cultural narrative is this idea that like being selfless is a positive thing, or that it's good to be selfless. And then we wind up divesting of ourselves so much that we don't have a full cup to pour from. And I think what I like about the narrative that you're telling is this idea that like when I protect my energy and my heart and what's important to me, and I'm thriving, then I'm able to actually give more and do more good and feel energetic with it, which is a little antithetical to maybe what's common in the cultural narrative. So one thing that I'd like to know about is how do you, when you say reading your own energy, because like those of us that train, right? Like I compete in powerlifting, when you've got a weight or not, when, how you feel that day. I've got a hip replacement, how injuries feel or whatever. how do you, because a lot of us, I think, aren't in touch with ourselves very much. You know, if we haven't gone to counseling or therapy before, or grown up maybe in a home environment where people talk about their feelings or know themselves, how do you start to essentially train people towards that? You mentioned your mom had you do journaling activities. Is that part of your counseling practice?
Oh, absolutely. It absolutely is. It's included in my last book. There's a hole in my love cup, and it's it's very much this notion of reading yourself. It's very much this notion of you have to get out all of the pain, all of the fears, and all of the bullshit beliefs you've been taught about yourself. Those have to come out because that's what's packing down on top of your own fucking soul, on top of your own authentic voice. And as I talk about in the book, as I talk about with all my counseling clients, that the way we get that out is by putting it into words. Yes, crying is necessary. Yes, getting the anger out. If you're a person who's never been allowed to express anger, that is very important. Getting the actual feelings out. But the real power is when we're able to put into words what we have been taught about ourselves. See, when we're children, when the men are and the women are laying the new sidewalk out in front of the house, and they lay the cement, they smooth it, and then at the end of the day, they put the tape around it, they go home to eat their dinner, right? And all the little peckerhead kids in the neighborhood come out and they fucking walk in it, right? And they write in it, Tommy is a fink, and and they press things into it. And whatever you press into wet cement, that impression hardens. When we're children, our soul is wet cement, our spirit is wet cement. And the messages that get pressed in, and not just the explicit ones, but those fucking implicit ones in how we're treated. Or, yes, we may have been told by our parents, oh, you can be anything in life, but somewhere there was a counter message. Maybe the parents are saying, oh, are you sure you want to do that, though? Or you can do anything you want as long as it fits within law, business, or medicine. Or, right. And it's getting pressed into the child's cement. And well, one of the underlying messages then is who you really are doesn't matter. You have to be who I want you to be. Well, that cement is down there. And they very often, people don't know the messages that were pressed into the wet cement. They get into childhood and they can't figure out why there's this unrest. Well, they've got this dissonance. They've got this dissonance, this life that they've built, or in this man's case, in law, based on what was pressed in his wet cement. Doesn't matter what you want, listen to your old man, or listen to your dominating mother, or whatever. And he built a life on that. And he can't understand why he's unhappy, because he's unhappy because that cement that hardened was never him. That wasn't his authentic self. So I have to take them down inside, or they can do it through journaling, or I, do it yourself courses and shit like that on my website, and break that cement, pour new cement with your own values. And that's not fucking pleasant shit. I literally just came out of a fucking session just now, a 4-hour session with a client, and we were going down into her real shit, the real stuff of how she was treated by her mother. Very successful woman, by the way, this client. And how she was treated by her cowardly father, who let her mother treat her this way. And at one point, we hit some really core stuff. She literally, in the middle of a Zoom session, literally gets up and leaves, just out of the blue. So I'm just sitting there, and whatever, going over my notes. She comes back about 10 minutes later. I'm sorry, Sven. I said, what? She sort of wiped her mouth. She says, I had to run to the bathroom. I had to throw up.
Wow.
That's the power of these core messages that we were given. When we go into our real shit, she was being forced to look at the fact that she had never had a family, that the people who called themselves mother and father and older brother were never fucking family, and the shit that was done to her and the messages that were conveyed to her. It was so painful, and she had been suppressing it her whole life, and now she's in her 40s, and it all just came vomiting up. All right, that's the power. And that's just one simple example. But people have these revelations, these epiphanies, and these situations where they just feel lighter because they're finally able to begin to see their past for themselves. So getting back to it, that is what enables us to begin to live more authentic lives, is when we get that pain out. But I have a feeling I didn't quite answer your question. So tell me either a follow-up question or rephrase the question, and I can answer it better.
I think a key component to my question is you're encouraging people to kind of recognize these things in the first place through things like journaling prompts. I know we can visit your website and find out more detailed information there. But once you've called that out in people, and once people start to know that, like you mentioned, it might make you throw up, it might manifest physically, it might not feel very good in the moment to acknowledge that you've been pushed into living inauthentically, or that you are out of touch with yourself and that you've maybe been that way for a long time, how do you empower people with the courage, or how do you help them source up the courage to then live, to then live in alignment with that? Because I think, like, for example, it's one thing to realize later in life, after you've been a lawyer for however long, holy shit, my parents pushed me into this and I hate it. And it's another thing to say, I'm going to quit and I'm going to start something entirely new. And I think that there's a really key turning point that has to happen internally and emotionally and mentally, and your willingness to like completely divest, like you mentioned, right? Like completely divesting of your material possessions to be in Berkeley, which, by the way, my father has lived in Berkeley for the past decade, and in the Berkeley area. And I love that area. It's been like a second home for a long time, but the homeless community there in particular, structural and economic and cultural factors into homelessness aside, I think like drug abuse in particular. I remember last time that my wife and I visited, there was a man, it was 9:30 in the morning, we were heading to get breakfast, and he's on the street trying to pump his vein up to shoot up, And I think that it's never more evident. Like, I think a lot of people really look at those situations really disdainfully. And to me, that severity of drug addiction is another evident manifestation of often like what you've talked about, these people that when their children are wet cement and have really terrible things pressed into that stays. And so I think a lot of the times, it's addiction or whatever is just another manifestation of being wounded and still living with a lot of that pain.
Absolutely.
So I think whether it's a sliding scale of, just quitting a high-end job or getting help and seeking community to get well from drug addiction, I mean, there's a lot of the underlying things are not really that different, are they?
No, and you hit it. I mean, you nailed it well, and that is that it's still the underlying pain. I'm very much a believer that everything is driven by pain and fear. And it just takes drilling down, and change can be, somebody once said, transformation can be immediate if you go deep enough. And I see that every day. I'm very much a believer in that. It doesn't have to be some long fucking protracted process, but it's getting the pain out, getting the fears out, and again, naming the BS beliefs that people have been taught about themselves. How do I give them the courage to then go out and live your life was the other part of your question. And really, as you begin to see your reality more, and the reality is not just what you've been taught about yourself, but the reality of what I'm afraid of today. And very often the biggest thing that hamstrings people's lives, keeps them from living an integrated life and expressing on the outside who they are on the inside, is their sheer terror of what people will say. It's not the fear of the unknown, it's the fear of the known. That if I express my real truth, if I be, say, do, and become on the outside who I am on the inside, I know exactly what my brother will say, or I know exactly what my old man will say, or I know exactly what my fucking husband will say, or whatever. Sure. Right? And it's like, that criticism was so fucking painful as a child that we took the real self and we packed it inside. And it's like, I'm not going to let that fucking shit out unless it's safe. Well, we have to create that safety by pushing back the voices, by creating room, by saying no to people. And what that requires, to create safe space to bring up my real self, what that requires is the courage to fucking say no. And underlying which is the belief that I fucking matter. When most people have had it, or a great many people have had it pressed into their wet cement, that who I really am doesn't matter. I'm just here to serve a function. I'm here to be mom's emotional tampon because she's always sharing her fucking problems with me. Or I'm here to, eat dad's punches. Or I'm here to fucking, take care of people or whatever. Which, by the way, brings up something you brought up earlier. And that is this notion of selfless giving. And, so many people have been taught to, your feelings don't matter, just give and give and give to other people. And, I was raised in that sort of mentality. And also as a former pastor, this notion, that Jesus thing of, to serve everyone else and be a martyr and all that shit. And I had a real revelation in my own fucking ministry. And that was, I'm not fucking Jesus, man. I don't mean I'm not fucking him like I'm not having sex with him. I mean, fucking not Jesus. That's what I should have said. Anyway, and what it means is I don't have the capacity to be a martyr. And that fucker only lived till he's 32. Well, I'm now 54. All right. And so what it means is, what I've come to believe as far as selflessness, as far as giving, and how do you know when you're giving too much? And how do you know, what is it? And I believe in basically selfish selflessness. And I'm not just trying to be cute there. What I mean is, if my giving doesn't feel good to me, I very rarely do it. And what I find is, when it does feel good to me, I give 10 times as much. And it's exciting for me. And my energy is in it, and my passion is in it. But that also means I'm very protective when I don't want to do shit. I'm extraordinarily protective of my alone time. I need a lot of it, because part of it's just processing all the shit from clients I'm working with and so on and so forth, and just rejuvenating my own soul and having peace and being able to fully go calm and relax, which is why I'm very, as an aside, one of the reasons I'm very careful with my use of caffeine. I use it on workout days. I'll get jacked. I'll do like 4 monsters and a couple of cups of coffee, and I'll do a 4-hour fucking intense workout. But on other days, generally, I don't touch it at all. Why? Because it fucks with my energy. And when I'm in a counseling session, I got to have a calm body and I got to have a calm mind. And if I'm getting a little rattled, then I'm moving too fast, or I'm jumping all over myself and shit like that. The point is, again, reading my energy. So if my giving to others, whether it's all the fucking hours I spend I do free fucking counseling, in little bits and pieces through direct messages, and people ask me, and my girlfriend Karen's like, fuck, Sven, you're doing counseling 24/7. It's like, yeah, I kind of. But the point is, it feels good to me. And if it doesn't feel good to me, I don't do it. I got a guy, he just DM'd me a couple days ago, and he says, dude, you got to tell me blah, 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 blah. And he lays out his whole problem. He never said please, and he never said thank you. And I'm like, no, I'm old school, man. At least have the fucking courtesy to say, so that didn't feel good.
Yeah.
It didn't feel good. And it can be as trivial as that, or as big as, whatever it might be. My girlfriend is running for public office on the city council here, and it's all free. She doesn't get fucking paid, but she's doing it because it feels good. Yes. And she wants to serve her community and animals and the trees and shit and the water and shit like that. So anyway, it's always about reading your energy. And that requires the courage to say no when it doesn't feel good, and it requires the courage to love and give energy to that which you want to, not what you're expected to, but what you want to give your fucking energy to.
Something that seems to me to be, in addition to this common thread, I think, is that, counseling or recognizing your feelings or reassessing childhood trauma, on the one hand, it's, internal, it's individual, it's emotional. But on the other hand, I think that there's a really implicit spiritual component, whether or not an individual is religious, or maybe whether or not they have felt spiritual in the past. I think sometimes people have kind of spiritual breakthrough moments when they look back and reprocess some of their trauma. I know that you had kind of this journey through your pastoral education and then being a bit of a rebel within the church, and then it seems like maybe divesting of some of the components of the church in favor of this more core component or human element, which is spirituality. And that requires a lot of courage to push back against a system that, like you mentioned, being a kind of an early adopter and promoter of LGBT rights within the church from a pastoral edge. And I think that as a member of the gay community myself, and my wife, of course, and being raised in the Midwest, like, homophobic church rhetoric dominates the conversation. And I know a lot of people that are like, yeah, I go to this church, and I don't really agree with it, but I'm not going to say anything, like they're not willing to push back. And so what was different for you in your ability to go ahead and stand up and push back against that? And I think that it's relevant to just that, but I think it's also relevant beyond that,
Yeah, no, it's definitely relevant beyond that, because I was also pushing back at the theology on a much more meta level. And the flashpoint at the time was gay, lesbian issues. But the real meat that was driving the gay, lesbian stance was the fucking theology. And that's what I was driving towards, or that was the battleground for me, despite where we were hitting in the flashpoint. So what enabled me to do it is I grew up, both my parents were full-blooded Swedish American, and among our people up in Minnesota, North Dakota, we're boring people. But my parents and the ethos that they came from was, you just love the people. It's about serving the people. doesn't matter. My father was a pastor. He just died last year at the age of 92, and he'd been a pastor for 65 years. And he ended his career as a chaplain at the Veterans Hospital in Minneapolis. And I remember him coming home one day, and he was telling me about one of his patients, and who had said something about, those dirty whatever people. What it could have been sexuality, could have been color of skin, could have been whatever. And this guy was a Christian. He thought my dad was going to agree because my dad was a Christian pastor. And my dad, cited that Bible verse, John 3:16, for God so loved the world, he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish but have everlasting life. Whatever. And my dad said to the guy, it doesn't say whosoever except blacks, or whosoever believes in God except the Jews, or except the gays, or except the whatever. It's whoever believes, blah, blah, blah. And so that was my dad's theology. And I had sort of moved out of a lot of, Christian theology, normal Christian theology. But my point was, I was socialized at a young age that you stand up for people. Mm-hmm. And then I got my first job in a very gay neighborhood in Minneapolis back when I was like fucking teen. So this is like the mid 80s. And so we're not that far past Stonewall. I mean, that was just less than 20 years prior, 15, 20 years prior. So it's just like, and it just became normalized for me. And then, being in Berkeley, and most of my close friends were fringe because I was on the fringe, because I was a fucking weirdo just for different reasons. And I don't know, I guess I was just socialized that the more you've been given, the greater your obligation to stick up for the weak, or those who are getting their ass handed to them, or, the social misfits, or people being pushed to the edge of society. So it was always one of my sort of pet issues, and it cost me. And I actually got thrown out of one church at the end, specifically because of this, because the senior pastor was going throughout, the Midwest Ohio area and so forth, with the anti-gay bullshit, and he and I would have it out. I respected him for other areas of his life, but not this. We'd have it out theologically, and a few times, most of the time actually, he realized that, and this sounds cocky to say, but my theology was better than his, and he had to fucking acknowledge it on the biblical argument, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, for me, yeah, it's about having the balls to fucking stand up for what you fucking believe in, even if it comes at a fucking price. And we become so self-interested, myself included, so self-interested, that we lose the greater good, that it's just not about fucking me. And, that's why I admire my girlfriend so much, running for office and standing up for BLM and standing up for, gay rights, and, and having a gay daughter. That, of course, changes the equation astronomically for me. But anyway, yeah, it really is about this. And this gets back to discerning yourself. You don't stand up for people because you're obligated to stand up by an external source. It's when I actually believe when we find our authentic self, each person's authentic self is giving and loving and kind. I absolutely believe that. No child comes out of the womb hating. No child comes out of the womb self-critical. No child comes out of the womb fearful of the world. All of that. So that means somewhere between then and now, the lie got impressed into this child, pressed into their cement, to hate themselves, to hate others, to view the world fearfully, to be self-critical. That means it's not your native state. I do not believe it is the native human state to hate on ourselves or hate on our others. And so I think when we drill down, we are all lovers at heart. We just got to get past all our pain, fear, and bullshit beliefs we've been taught about ourselves. And that all sounds a bit cliche, but I fucking believe it.
I mean, I think sometimes the truest things are simple on the surface, and kind of in alignment with that. Well, there's maybe two common themes, which is one, listening to you talk about knowing yourself. I think being, and this is a hot button word culturally right now, this idea of being, you got a fly in here, this idea of being mindful, right? And I think just like taking a moment to pause and be present and be aware of the environment you're in, or the messages that you have received or are receiving, and then making a conscious, mindful choice about how do you not be reactive to that, but how do you be responsive to that. And so I think I really appreciate that. And then in addition to that, you were a strength coach for a period of time in the strength and conditioning world. I think that something that we see a lot of, and maybe something that I'm more, I don't want to say sensitive to, more aware of in an immediate sense, is it's really dominated, or a lot of the discourse around strength stuff is dominated, be it powerlifting or Olympic weightlifting or training for sport, is controlled by this kind of like, I don't want to use, it's kind of a hot button thing to say toxic masculinity, but I think that there's all this discourse about toxic masculinity, and then we wind up throwing the baby out with the bathwater sometimes. And I think that you seem to bring this really masculine edge to counseling, right? Like it's, you know, it's fucking badass. And at the same time, it's not poisonous in that, you know, there's not this like, don't be a fucking pussy, suck it up, whatever, like do what you're fucking told kind of mentality. And so I think it's just something that you see in strength sports or powerlifting or whatever, like this world that I'm in. I see a lot of other coaches predominantly that are men that are hyper masculine that then pull off this edge that is like either homophobic or, you know, there's an undercurrent of racism or some undercurrent of like, fucking suck it up, nobody cares about your feelings, shut up and lift weights. Like, so I think it's really cool how you kind of bring like the badass components of masculinity, but you've somehow separated them from these other really unnecessary, harmful things. I'm not sure if I know exactly my question in there is, but that's just an observation.
Well, just to put an exclamation point on that, or to sort of flesh it out a little bit, if we think of, you know, badass, the traditional shit that we're taught in my generation back in the 60s and 70s, or in my father's generation in the 30s, let's say 20s and 30s and 40s, this, you know, be tough, suck it up, you know, big boys don't cry, all that shit. And then you've got the 70s, 80s, 90s coming along, and now that shit is getting heaped onto women as well. So you've got so many women entering the workplace doing the tough girl thing, and they are tough, indisputable, but in both cases, that other side, the softer side, is being shut off, right? And to me, that never made sense from a true toughness perspective. To me, to be tough means, I mean, if we just loosely, to do what the fuck you want to do whenever you want to do it. Okay, so that means, like a moment ago, when I was tearing up talking about the gay lesbian community and standing up for them, and then my daughter becoming gay, I did that because I, for whatever reason, was feeling, you know, soft, and it brought me to tears. All right. But I didn't give a shit if I expressed it or not. It's what I was feeling. Why wouldn't I express what I feel? It's a natural human response. But if you've been culturally conditioned by parents that big boys don't cry or don't show emotion, emotion is weakness. And so you keep that feelings in. When it's a normal human response, you just cry. Who gives a fuck? You cry, big fucking deal. But if you're keeping it in, you're not being authentic. In other words, you're answering to someone else's voice. You're answering to culture's voice, your mom and dad's voice saying, don't cry. That's right. So in other words, you're not strong because you're not doing what you naturally want to do in any given minute. You're instead answering to an external power source. Well, that's as good a definition of weakness as there is. Strength means I only answer to myself. So myself, if I feel like crying, I cry all the fucking time. Crying is just one little thing. And I'm sensitive and playful with kids and kind old people. I strive to be, all right. And because why? Because it feels good to me. I don't give a shit what somebody thinks of me. Because I'm, you know, kind and gentle and playful and whatever. Fuck do I care? And to me, that's what a badass is. Where if I feel like being strong and tough in a moment, I do that. If I feel like being soft, I do that. But it's all oriented towards honoring my truth inside, not just you got to be tough all the time. That's somebody who's weak. That's someone who's still trying to please some external voice by being tough all the time. Because that's what I was told. That's what my daddy told me. So I'm going to just be tough all the time. But that's not you. Being a truly strong person just goes ahead and be who they really are. So that, to me, that's what a real badass is. And so it's about having the courage to be authentic, but within the sort of context of what I was saying earlier, that I believe at our core, we're all desiring to bring love. And for me, it's all about love. It's all about compassion. It's all about trying to heal people, using my strength to be kind to people, even if it's just Stephanie, who's the checkout girl at my liquor store. Stephanie and I'll chit chat, and being kind, asking about her day, what's going on? Well, how come you never go outside on these warm summer days? Oh, I can't stand the heat, Sven, whatever. Giving attention, giving energy to other people, being kind, being loving, giving attention. There's a thing among guys in the era that I was growing up where, you know, part of the reason you want to be big and be strong and so forth is so that when you walk into a room, when you walk into a bar, you're the biggest guy in the room. And every fucking guy in that fucking room, or maybe it's a gym, every fucking guy is looking at that biggest guy and saying, okay, somewhere in them, they're registering he's the alpha, okay? Now, as we know from steroids, very often the guys who are the biggest aren't the strongest because a lot of guys doing steroids are never lifting more than 50 pounds. They're just doing 200 reps. Separate issue. The point is, for a lot of guys, they're registering size as the determinant of who they're going to defer to, okay? But what if you have two guys who are big? Well, then who wins? Well, very often it's the next step is who's the smartest in the room. So not just the biggest, but biggest and smartest. And then the third thing is, and this is where you go from, good men who may be strong to better men who are strong and smart, but great men. And the great ones are the ones who can give attention. See, very often when we're getting bigger, we're getting stronger, we're getting smarter, or we're working harder, we're making more money, it's because I want to receive attention. I want people to fucking look at me. I want people to think, oh, wow, he's cool. Oh, wow, I admire him. But the great ones are the ones who take that attention and give it right back. We all want to be the center of attention. I get people coming up to me all the time. Oh, you're a badass guy. Oh, Sven, blah, blah, blah. Not all the time, but it happens enough, even in fucking Manhattan. And in that moment, I say thank you. That's really nice. But my calling, my job is to give attention back to you. So, what's your name? Really? What are you doing down here in Manhattan? Or I was in Minneapolis once, and this guy walks up to me out of the blue. And turns out, he says, I see your shit all the time, blah, blah, blah. I said, what are you doing? He says, well, I'm in art restoration. We're restoring this Botero sculpture. And he's telling me about art restoration. So I was giving energy to him. I wasn't making it about me. The great men, and I would offer the great women, the great people,
sure,
are the ones who are giving attention to others, whether through gifts, through time, through praise, through words, through serving someone else, but giving other people attention. That's the mark of a true badass, is that you're using your energy in gift to others, serving them, being kind to them, just giving them fucking attention. That to me is an ultimate badass. Anybody can be big. Anybody can be strong. Just go lift the fucking weight, right? And really, you can be smarter, but the people who are a real gift to humanity, I think, are the ones who are giving attention to others, because I think that's what people want more than anything at all. Anyway, my 2 cents.
I think what I really love about that and what really resonates is there's this kind of thing that I think about in terms of the ethos of my time as a personal trainer or my time as a coach. It's okay, I'm a pretty average power lifter. I've been smashed in half. I've got a lot of surgical hardware and stuff. And so, in working with people, I think that, it's well, I'm not going to, you can't say oh, I train with an elite athlete, or, oh, I train with somebody that's injury free all the time, or, whatever necessarily, because of my medical history. And, I spent a year and a half coaching with a hip that was bone on bone, and so there's kind of all these things, and in the training world, there's all these really superficial things that are valued. And so I think for me, a big ethos is always, how can I provide the best coaching in how I pay attention to people, and in how you make them feel, and in how you make them feel listened to. And then, okay, yeah, you lift weights and you do that stuff, and maybe that's, not that different from anybody else, but you can set yourself apart in how you treat others. And there's a phrase, and I'm going to maybe get it, not quite correct, and it's maybe a little bit trite, but it's people aren't necessarily going to remember what you did exactly, or what you said exactly, or, the context or the setting or the time of your interaction with them, but people will remember how you made them feel. And I think that's really important, is how are you making this person feel in this moment, whether they're somebody that you know really well, or whether they're a client that you see every week, or whether they're just somebody that you have on a podcast, or, whatever it is. It's how did I make this person feel in that moment? And that's what will resonate with people.
And in your business, Annie, that you are in, of training and of coaching, then think about it. If you've got someone who's coming in, they're 100 pounds, 200 pounds overweight, or they're recovering from X, Y, or Z, and maybe they've never really done gym shit before, and they come to you, and you're making them feel that, in addition to the workouts, you're making them feel loved. You're making them feel seen. You're listening. And every trainer, every coach knows, you're as much their fucking psychologist as you are their fucking trainer, but because they want some, they trust you, they want someone they can talk to, and you're creating a feel. Well, guess what you're doing by creating that feel? You're creating positive associations with the gym, with working out. So by creating a feel for them, the ancillary benefit of that is that they have positive affect towards working out, which makes them want to work out more. They have good associations. Whereas in the past, so many people had bad associations with gyms because there's big guys like me grunting a lot and whatever. And so definitely creating a sense of feel and giving people, it's just giving them fucking love, man. And, that can come in all shapes and sizes, but the effect is then, of course, it helps them physically because it makes them want to come back. You're creating those positive associations.
Which in turn, I think, helps people mentally and emotionally and spiritually. You have a video, and it's weightlifters know about spirituality that you don't, or something like that. Is that correct? And you talk about kind
I've
of.
got hundreds of. I know I did one on it. I can't remember what was the point.
The point was that this dude, he was like doing a lift, and he like went up to the bar and he sat with it for an exceptionally long period of time. Like he was squatting, setting up, and it was like heavy. And your point was basically like, dude's fucking squatting heavy fucking weight, 600 some pounds, and he stands there with it for 30 seconds or a minute or something. And this point being that I think you are willing to give undivided, focused attention to something, even if it's uncomfortable, and that that's inherently spiritual. And I think that when people feel encouraged and good about themselves, that then they're better able to do that. And then that feeds back in a spiritual way, which is that, like, I've got an older gentleman that I train that I think never really had the opportunity to lift or to feel like, we all want to feel like a bit of a badass, right? Like, you want to feel physically empowered. And he felt that for the first time here, and we spent a lot of time together over the years. But then you see this bleed over into other areas of like, yeah, I'm willing to sit with things that are uncomfortable for long periods of time. And I think that was a cool point just that you made. And I think that that's kind of the other component. Are you familiar with the book, The Body Keeps the Score at all?
No.
There's a book called The Body Keeps the Score, and I forget, it's Vander Kolk or something. The fellow's got a German last name, and it's translated. But he was a therapist or a psychologist that did all this research on PTSD in Vietnam veterans, and part of it was the embodiment of trauma and the embodiment of emotion. And it's like, you all heard about like massage therapists or something, like, I was working on this dude's shoulder and he burst into tears, or like whatever it is. And I think that is kind of where I think that's the cool marriage of the professions that you've had, right? Which is that, like, sometimes you have a hard time accessing something emotionally and you get a little physical, and then all of a sudden it's there. And I think, that's a pretty cool.
No, absolutely. And this is why, and I was literally just telling a client or two this earlier today, and that is that the secret of life, if you want to find happiness, just learn how to read your own energy. Just as I was mentioning earlier, what are those things that give me energy? Follow those. Who are the people that give you energy? Go towards those. What are the things that bleed your energy, bore you, numb you, that you have to conjure up energy to? Stay away from those. And again, that requires the fucking courage. But it really, our essence, who you are in your essence, Annie, registers in your energy. And all you got to do is start reading your energy and having the courage to act on it. So yeah, the physical and the spirit of who you are absolutely integrated. Absolutely. And I mean, to the point I was making earlier, the client who ran out of the room and threw up. Why would she throw up if we were just having a conversation about, I wasn't punching her in the face. She didn't have any bad, eggs for breakfast. It was strictly because of this conversation. So the notion that spirit and body are absolutely united, I'm of the absolute belief of that. And the trick is, yes, it's reading your energy. And just as one point, I'd forgotten that video. I'm glad you reminded me of that one. And him pausing, that lifter pausing at the weight in front of this, ridiculous amount of weight. And that when it feels right, you're holding the weight, or you're doing your deadlift or getting ready for your snatch. And there's that moment. And then there's the instant, just that pulse, that explosion. Where does that pulse even come from? I mean, it's just all of a sudden out of nowhere, there's this massive explosion, and it comes from the mind, the body, whatever. But also the word you brought up, and my athletes used to hear me bellowing this across the weight room daily, and it was, there is no success in any venture in life without the capacity to focus your mind. And this is across all platforms. I was a waiter for years when I was writing some of my books, and you have to be able to focus, even as something as simple as a waiter. Why? Because you've got 7 fucking tables going. That guy over there has a medium rare steak that's going to be ready, but also on that table is a fucking dish that's got a 20-minute preparation. But over here, I know I have to get a hot tea that they're ready to go, and that one over there, they want to order dessert, but you got to be focused. You have to be focused in the gym. Right? You have to tune out the distractions. Oh, I want to be thinking about my girlfriend. Oh, geez, I got to fucking go to work early, tomorrow, because I just remember, wait, where's your fucking head? It's not in this fucking lift, and it needs to be in this lift. Well, it's the same way in life. It's so easy almost to hyper focus on things that are distractions from the real shit inside, the real pain inside, the real fears inside, the bullshit beliefs you've been taught about yourself. It's easy to stay focused, so to stay distracted. If this is the tidal wave of all my pain and all the shit inside of me, to just keep running, to stay busy, to keep running, to keep my focus on everything that except what I'm most terrified of. And so, yeah, focus is fucking huge. And where is your focus? And is it possible that where you're focused is not because you're running to something, but you're running away from something? And that's always one of the, what are you really fucking running away from? Anyway, just sort of wove a couple of things together. But I'm glad you reminded me of that video. I'd forgotten that one. That was a good one.
Try to do a little bit of homework, you know.
Clearly you did. That's an old one.
Sven, we're starting to get close to the end of our hour. I really appreciate your time today. I've got only 2 scripted questions that I like to ask people. And I think really this first one you answered really well already in multiple ways, but maybe just a little summary here for the end. The first question is, what does strength mean to you? And like I said, I think you already answered that, but maybe just give us a bit of a recap on what it means to be strong.
It means having the courage to be who the fuck you really are, to actually fucking be, say, do, and become on the outside who you really are on the inside. And then the truly strong are the ones who employ their strength for those who are less strong, for those who have no voice, for the outcast.
100%. Thank you. The second question that I have is, one, what are you at present? Are you reading anything or listening to anyone? Is there something that you feel like you're currently learning from at present that you think that we would all benefit in learning from? And then the ancillary to that would be, where can we find your reading material or material, where can we find your social media? Where can we watch or listen to you personally?
Sure. Because I'm actually working on one of my own books, my next book at the moment, I deliberately don't read other people when I'm working on my own shit, because I don't want their shit. Not because I don't respect their shit, but it wouldn't be fair to use their shit in mine. But more accurately, I have about 3 Bibles in my life that I come back to. And it's less about learning more and more about practicing and continuing in the practices. And one of them that I recommend all my clients, I was just recommending it this morning, the one is called Living in the Light. It's gone out of print. It came out in like the late 80s. The author is Shakti Gawain, kind of an odd name. But the first half of the book, at least, is one of my Bibles. And she talks about intuition, energy, and feelings, and how they weave together, and how we begin to connect to our own intuition, living in the light. I'm a big believer in that book. The other one that's more of a workbook type of book, and I recommend it to clients who have some self-discipline, who have pain inside that they're trying to get out, death, loss, whatever it might be. And it's called the Sedona Method. Neither of these are my books. Sedona Method is a great one for accelerating getting the pain out, faster than counseling, faster than journaling, so that you can begin to move on with your life. And as far as my stuff, all my stuff is at badasscounseling.com. You can see my little 1-minute videos on TikTok. I got several hundred of them at Badass Counseling, also on Instagram. And YouTube, it's Sven Erlandson. My book, There's a Hole in My Love Cup, is available on my website, also at Amazon. It's in paperback, ebook, and audiobook. And I had a little bit of success just recently. My book shot all the way up to number 32 out of 23 million books, or 30 million books on Amazon. My book shot up to number 32 on the self-help list. Yeah, sales have been great. It's been great. And and a lot of great reviews, and it's helping people's lives. And so that's a nice feeling. So anyway, and there are also video courses available for people on the website that you can use. And all of this is intended to help you heal and begin to live an authentic life. And finally, for the first time in your life, unleash your true greatness.
Awesome. Awesome, Sven. Thank you so much for your time and for all of your wisdom and your knowledge. And I will, for anybody listening, I will link all of your social and your website and everything like that in the video below, and then as well on Spotify when we upload it there. That's a wrap, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning into Unbreakable Radio. Again, that was Sven Erlandson with Badass Counseling. You can visit his website at badasscounseling.com or his social media handles on Instagram and TikTok at Badass Counseling. Check out his book on Amazon, There's a Hole in My Love Cup, as well as his courses on his website and his free content and articles and blogs. Thank you.